Hello out there and good morning, traders. It is January 24th, 2024. Let's dive into our ESDMI for today. So, taking a look at our usual schedule, we usually start with a recap and then we go into the updated levels and so forth, but we don't have a recap because we didn't really have a straightforward DMI on Monday. So, now we're looking at just what's the plan for today. After looking at what was going on over the last couple of days, we went sideways for a little bit of time around that neutral reference that I had listed on Monday, and we built some value there, and now we are outside of that value and continuing to trend to the upside. So at this point, we are now trend following with some of our lower time frames and paying attention to how that particular context is going to play out. So our main idea is our line in the sand in this area here, and we're looking at scenario one being bullish up above that area and bearish down below it. However, the one thing I can say about being into looking at scenario two is that even this area here is still generally bullish due to this reference here also being bullish, and that's kind of the break from the value that I'm talking about. So this particular zone here is kind of like a wider bull zone and not really a place that I would be looking for a lot of, shorts to hold or something like that. But if you get back into here, then you start looking at scenario two being a lot more healthy heading down to this neutral reference here. And that would kind of be the end of the line for scenario two overall in the trading session. But as you can see, we continue to move upward and we're now clearing out this neutral area here and continuing to the upside. So at this point, what we're going to be doing is kind of monitoring the trend following. And we do have some targets overhead, but they're not for a little while now up at the 49.90s. So that would be our first destination out in open space here, heading upward if this market just continues to rally all day today. So we'll be monitoring kind of this wide open space. Now, this is a problem if you don't actually follow, as a NADRO student and you're just using these as bare levels. If that is the case for targeting, you can just keep things short term up above here, scalp base, whatever you need to do, but follow the bulls, right? Because our line in the sand is a dynamic reference and it will be kind of migrating. If you're a student, you understand what that means. If not, what we're going to be watching here is just holding above this neutral level. If we get up above this neutral level here, you can kind of stay along with the bulls, but just look for intermittent trend following type of targets or however you might do that within your own process. But this is essentially a lot of open space. It's very similar to trading all-time highs, and that's kind of actually where we're heading up above here. So that's something to pay attention to with today's DMI. Whenever it comes to the targeting, there's very little for us up above to really go off of. Because we're outside of a lot of our higher time frames where there's nothing really reference-wise that we can go on. There is a tactic you could use if you are lacking any type of, targeting here. It's something we call rhythm. What you could do is kind of measure rotations from low to high, and then of course get an idea of how the rhythm is playing out during a session, and you could use that rhythm as like general targeting for an individual rotation. So that is something that could be done. It is not a NADRO reference or anything like that in terms of the ranking and distilling of narrative. It's just a tactic that I'm kind of showing off here for this open space type of area that we're in right now. So that's the general game plan for us. I'll just review that one more time because I went over a lot of stuff here. Let me zoom in on this a little bit more clearly. So this is our line in the sand. Scenario one is that we continue to hold bullish up above that. Scenario two is that we get down below it. In this particular zone here, you want to be careful with shorting in that area just because it is still generally bullish. But if we do get down below this reference here, then that's a very clear opportunity for scenario two, especially in terms of shorting back into this neutral lower edge here. From there, let's look at what's going on with scenario one. With scenario one, if we get back down below this neutral reference, you could start to see deeper pullbacks into our line in the sand. Is it a true short opportunity? Not really, because you're going against a lot of the bias that we're seeing and a lot of the strong bias that we're seeing, a lot of upward momentum here, especially breaking out from the value that we've built over the last couple of days. So not an advisable thing to do against this context, but if you are very short term, you could possibly take a look at that opportunity. But for now, this neutral reference here is going to kind of be our guide as to whether or not we're just going to continue to trend follow, or if we get down below it, if we're looking and holding for that deeper pullback into our line in the sand. Okay, so mind your risk, trade well, and follow your process today. Sorry about the lack of overhead targeting, but it's the nature of where we're at in terms of context. If you are a student, we do have many tactics to kind of handle the situation. But if you're just following these DMIs for the levels and so forth, it doesn't really fit a lot of NADRO methodology to put just targets out in open space like this that don't exist. So it's something to pay attention to and be mindful of in today's session.